Everything is right there. So, like I said, whether it's conference materials, actual teaching materials, or recent district activities, everything can be found on the date that it happened on. That's just how I use it. I just put like the Tennessee conference right here was on Saturday the 3rd, and then I was in Wake County, North Carolina, and then at Actful in Louisiana. So I put them on those specific dates so that they're easy for people to find. All they really have to remember is when we spent time together, or if they couldn't make it, when the event was supposed to be, the training or the conference, what have you. So everything should be there. It's also a great use if you're one to one, but even if you're not, and maybe your students have devices. My students have devices. We're not one to one. We're probably too big. And so I like to also post the substitute assignment, in addition to, of course, having it in the classroom and making it available to the substitute and all those kind of obvious things. I also like to post on the calendar so they can see it ahead of time, and I have some that do, as well as parents can be aware. In the grade book, it's going to be listed under that date. So on November 15th, when I was gone for Actful, in the grade book, they'll be called November 15th. Well, they'll be called what the assignment was, but the dates will be the 15th and the 16th. So if students or parents have a question, they can just go back to the calendar and say, oh, it was your substitute assignment. If there's nothing on the calendar and it says November 8th, then maybe it's in week one, but also maybe the student then needs to go back and look and see what the assignment actually was based on the description. So it also cuts down on some like, what was that sub work? What were we supposed to do? And so on. When things don't get turned in sometimes, I can just say, go to the calendar, especially if it was a sub assignment. If not, you see the rest is not, it's just wrapped up in the week. So then I have to be really specific with what I call my assignments. But if it's substitute assignment, there it is. They did a Ropa Fea storyboard and activities, and like two different storyboards and activities. And then Friday, they did an ad libs activity. So those were on paper in the classroom. It was just me telling them. Now, if you have devices, you can do what I did here which was a substitute assignment here. And they had to click here and go to a Google form and do all these different activities on Day of the Dead. And I knew that they had computers that day. So it was also a really nice way to say, hey, substitute, here's what they're doing. Here's where they're supposed to go. Here's how you know if they did it, blah, blah, blah. And then for students, boop, and the results were sent to me in the moment. So I was getting the results like as they were happening. So that was pretty cool. So if you can do electronic things, Google Calendar is a great way to post them. That way you're not walking them through 17 different steps every time you have the devices, or you have to say, okay, now go here, now click here. And it goes from making them independent to making them sort of dependent, which sometimes is the opposite of what an electronic or a digital or an internet-based assignment is supposed to do. So we want them to kind of branch out and be able to see those different resources, see infographics, see different things. And if we kind of walk them through every single little thing, and it's not the first time or it's pretty self-explanatory, we're kind of doing them a disservice usually. I think it makes them a little bit dependent. So if it's something that they can just click on and go to the Google form and go from there, I just link it up and I say, okay, let's get the laptops out and everything's on the calendar. You know your objectives, let's go. And then we've got work to do together while they're working as well. So you'll also see that you have, that I have put the assessment dates on there because I don't see assessments as a gotcha. We're all in this together and I want them to do well. So they should also know, based on their objectives, based on their can-do statements, what will be on our sort of unit summative. We do reading, writing, speaking, and listening for each unit. And when they click on or hover over and then click on, they can see all of the different tasks they'll have to do. So there's the speaking, listening, reading, and writing in that order. And then Unit 5, next Friday, here's next Friday. So they've got each section outlined. And then next year, all I can do is I just go to like edit, I change the dates, and I go from there. And as long as the assessment didn't change or the tasks didn't change, I mean, I can obviously edit them. But in terms of a simplified calendar and planning, I just change the dates to whenever it'll lie next November-ish. So I just make it 2019, pop it on that Friday because I like Friday assessments to kind of cap off a whole week and go from there. And I can do the same things with my units. So the way my units have lasted about 3 weeks each, I can do the same thing and just kind of drag them or just go to Unit 5, edit, and then we'll take a look at when it'll fall next year if we're doing the same kind of pacing. So it'll be November-ish. And if I had to estimate, I'd probably say if Thanksgiving is like this week, I'd say it's probably going to do the same cutoff. This week, and then this week. So next year will probably be November 4th through the 29th. So it's just one day different, and I can just pop those over, and then they'll automatically populate in next year's. Now, what I do to make this calendar available is I just embed the calendar, which you can get when you go to settings. You'll go to settings, and you should be able to get an embed code when you look down for sharing. And I'm not going to look super hard right now because it might take me a second. But it should be in the sharing features anyway. And then I embed it in my school website. So you can see on this tab, this is what students and parents see when they go to my website, which is off of my school website, and I made a shortcut. It's tinyurl.com/Senora Blanco. And so when they go here, the very first thing they see is the calendar, and it's updated in real time. So if I were to add something and then hit refresh, there it is. And so it's really nice. I don't have to constantly maintain my class website. As long as my calendar is updated, bada bing, bada boom. Everything's updated and everyone knows what all is going on when. And so they can come here and see, oh my gosh, Timmy, are you ready for your test next Friday? Here's what you're going to have to do. And here's the parent and student view, which is pretty cool. All I did was click lightly on there. You can click more details if you'd like, but usually all the things show right there. If there are attachments, they will show up in the more details view. So you click more details and then click on the attachments, and it's pretty cool. So I like to put files there. I like to put all the information there, and then I just harp on it all the time. Did you check the calendar? Did you check the calendar? Did you check the calendar? Have you checked the calendar? You should probably check the calendar. And I even make it, we're here in Unit 5, but my warm-up for Friday, this upcoming Friday, next Friday, a week from today, is definitely, hey, just asking, where do you find all the important class dates and what's included on all the assessments? I literally just ask students because, as we know, as adults, we need reminders, and so do they. So we can't expect them to, oh yeah, that's right, the calendar, right, got it. Some do, and some are really on top of it, but some aren't. And so I don't remember everything, so I just assume they need reminders. And so I try and find subtle ways to sneak it into the already in planned instruction. And so that's one of them where I'm like, hey, don't forget to check the calendar. Or you could set it out as a remind, check the calendar tonight, everything's there. And you didn't even have to link it, you just had to mention it. And the onus then is on the student to take the responsibility and to take the ownership and to look up things that you've already worked hard to put places. So I try to work smarter and not harder with the calendar. It's sometimes I've gotten in such a routine now that it's not hard to remember to post things. And I've actually already started posting things for level 2 in the spring. So I'm super excited about that. So now my level 1 students can look ahead and look at, oh, okay, like here are all the plans for like level 2. They can go ahead and anticipate some of the warm-ups, anticipate some of the objectives, and the unit topics are right there as well. So they know that Unit 1's my routine. Unit 2 kind of talks about childhood. And then we talk about like New Year's resolutions within those routines, and then also within those childhoods. So it comes back over Spanish 1 descriptions. And I love those 2 topics because they're really interesting, and they're a nice segue in January. And then furthermore, we go on to traveling as it gets to be spring and spring break, and where are you going to go, and where'd you go, where'd you used to go. And then we finish out the school year with going back to health and food, as well as back to clothing and fashion and outward forms of expression. So a lot of the same topics that we saw in Spanish 1, but they spiral up so that we're able to make some of the things that were kind of dessert before in terms of topics, the entree. So some of the things that were just kind of optional or level up language now become sort of mastery type targets. So it's pretty cool, but I can already go ahead and share all my resources there. I'm going to tell them on Monday, hey, by the way, Spanish 2 stuff is already there. You can see what the assessments are going to have. This is not a secret, just reinforces that we're all on the same side. We're all on the same page, and I want you to do well. And also I've worked hard to provide resources for you and to curate them in a way that takes your in-class learning episodes a step further and allows you to not have formal homework necessarily, but always have something that you can treat as homework and just check up on your progress or look over a few things. And then your parents have some leverage as well, like, hey, I saw you had a test, or hey, and then it becomes kind of a topic of conversation. So check it out. Tweet if you have any questions. I'm at PRHS Spanish. And I hope you enjoy Google Calendar as much as I have. I just think it's pretty awesome. So thanks for watching.